And we're live. Hi, everyone. Thank you for your patience as we got this event started. My name is Ida. I'm a bookseller at Women and Children First. It's one of the last remaining feminist bookstores in the United States. We're honored to celebrate Tara Betts' new book, Refuse to Disappear, and we're thrilled to have her here for some reading and some question answering tonight. We were supposed to be joined by Diamond Sharp tonight, but she had a family emergency. She is okay, but we wish her well. We begin our virtual events as we begin our events held in the store with a land acknowledgement. So, from wherever you are, please join me in acknowledging that the land on which the bookstore stands is the unceded territory of the Peoria, Potawatomi, and Miami people. There are over 75,000 Indigenous people living in Illinois, and we at the store strive to recognize and honor Native literature and communities. We encourage you to learn more about land acknowledgements and the rightful owners of the land where you are viewing tonight's event. Going beyond land acknowledgement to the work on the ground, we also encourage folks to research their local Indigenous led land back organizations. For us in Chicago, we uplift the ongoing work of the American Indian Center of Chicago. Few housekeeping notes before we get started. Be sure to drop your questions by clicking the Ask a Question button, and we'll get to them at the end of the discussion. You can buy the book. You can order the book by clicking that Buy the Book button. I'll also be putting in direct links into the chat throughout the event tonight. Women and Children First is open for in-store browsing Tuesday through Sunday, 11 to 6, and we continue to offer curbside pickup, and we ship anywhere in the U.S. Finally, if you like tonight's event and you want to see more about more of our virtual events or we're slowly returning to in-person events, you can see which events to go to, future events on our website. The next virtual one is actually tomorrow. It is with Sarah Rauch and Christine Sneed, and it will be a reading and discussion of Sarah's new memoir titled XO. It's now my honor to introduce Tara Betts. Tara Betts is the author of Break the Habit and Arc and Hue. In addition to her work as a teaching artist and mentor for young people, she has taught at several universities, including Rutgers University and University of Illinois Chicago, and at Stateville Prison via the Prison and Neighborhood Arts Project. She's the inaugural poet for the People Practitioner Fellow at University of Chicago. Betts serves as a poetry editor at the Links and Hughes Reviews and is the founder of the nonprofit organization, the Whirlwind Learning Center. I'm going to go away now and just let you have the screen, Tara. Thank you so much for sharing your writing with us tonight and for being here. I can't wait to hear it and to be here in this community, virtual community. So. I'll take off. I'll be here at the end. I'm still in the chat if you need it.
Thanks, Ida. And I just want to start with a quick thank you to Women and Children First Books. It's one of the first independent bookstores in Chicago that I used to go to when I was still an undergrad at Loyola because it was walking distance from my house. And they carried my first chapbooks there, Can I Hang and Switch, and sold them on the shelf next to some of my favorite writers. And it was really important and meaningful for me to have that experience. So with that in mind, this is the book. This is my new baby. And I'm going to read a few poems. And I know there's a lot of familiar names in the people section. Well, I'm definitely going to be excited to take questions. So I'm just going to get straight into some poems and then we can chat a little bit if you guys want to chat. Sound good? Yes? No? Okay. Yeah. It's kind of like talking to undergrads. You ask them a question, no one says yes. Anyway. I'll go ahead, start reading the poems and quit being naughty. This is one that is kind of inspired by my best friend who sometimes we get together and write. And He actually took me to go run some errands today. So, really appreciate my friend Aurelius Rains. Um, and here's the first poem, Fubu, after Solange Knowles. I am sitting in a cafe with my boy that I have known longer than my students have been alive, before the birth of his firstborn son, and the waiter wears a tight black camisole with bright green beads. We smile because he is living his joy. And how many people do that on the daily? And how many of us know that joy, like pink and blue hair clips latched onto flawless waves? And we must know someday where we are as serene as Solange's expression, always shaming Mona Lisa, who never knew about the ice grill or paper cranes. I find myself wanting to raise my fists, like I'm in an elevator with my sister's husband talking sideways, but I have no sisters as blood kin. I find myself wanting to celebrate all the history that made me and be a little gutter too, because once I carry it in my pocket, it's my slingshot and my stone, rubbed smooth by fingers and time. I find myself counting the sway of what I claim and protecting it like the last medallion that could be stolen. So, I'm gonna take a little sip of water really quick. I'm stifling it a little bit, but I'm post COVID. So I was sick and I tested negative days ago. I'm feeling way better, but still coughing a little bit. The cough doesn't want to leave. Um and I haven't okay. I'll read these two. This one's called What Bucks or Breaks. Watch me press flat this bristling moment that softens to mature bitter. This tense sugar spun from shimmering refuse. Absence turns solo, celebrating living as one, not two, because who needs a trap woven from a promise that favors maroon ropes, a bloody cat's cradle, a catch, a cage that's this planned life, puzzle out an escape, confinement labeled as safe. Don't trust the hands that throw you on a whim, safeguarding half baked lies, nothing that protects or or bucks the saddle, chucks the soft rein, or breaks. I reject iron hammered to my feet. I paint these lips, brighten my face, dress in my wishes, ignore solicitous open palms, and greet my breath. I'm just jumping around right now. Um, I was thinking I'll read a couple poems from the back of the book. And with everything that's happened with Black Lives Matter, I'm surprised. This book, I wrote it before the pandemic happened. It was pretty much done before any of this. And I found that um, some of the stuff that's talking about prisons and policing is probably more timely than ever, unfortunately. And it's making me think a lot about how militaristic things are becoming. So I'm going to go ahead and read the poem that kind of touches on that for me. This is called Baltimore Starting to Sound Like Babylon. The planes are circling Baltimore. We could say they are rehearsing for other cities, other dead caught in a profile that race gives finality as a fortune. And we could get used to helicopters whirring near our windows and crushing tank treads, punishing the worn streets. We could even say that placards and broken windows meant more. And we could say that change law almost quick as a spine snapped. Once what's on paper changes, ask what protects us from circling steel predators overhead while we watch the news? What flashing blip distracts us from loaded catapult drawn and aimed at living rooms where we could be alive, then gone? Um, I'm gonna go ahead and read this poem really quick. It's a poem that I've been telling people. Many editors turned it down and didn't want to publish it. So now I'm like, yeah, it's in a book now. Nah, 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 nah. So I'll leave it at that. And it's kind of in a similar vein. It's called An Open Letter to the Voyeurs. I keep trying to write a sentence, simple and clear, but I keep writing the beginnings of poems that process the electricity and the extinguishing of human charges. A persistent black light, a startling series of resistant sparks. The flashing clouds of shots fired, puncturing the flesh that we know, pinned down to this death language that they want us to speak like our first tongue. But it is a language without tone, a tone of decaying and then dissipating spirit. There are days when the songs of my dead seem to be the only notes that people trace with fascination, a morbid savoring that ignores anything that helped someone like me live. This body of mine is alive, a product of being hugged, shared laughter, the dismantling of so called textbooks. When you break me down to a product that purchases so many consumable goods, cuts down my life, and blames me for having babies so young, there is some equation where the pennies I make add up to someone else's vacation in Antibes, and their children might reference it easily in an easily published poem. My poems must talk about the anglings of flesh in cell phone cameras, once breathing, then red, still. I must be fascinated with my own death, subsumed in grief I did not build. This sort of death is not old age, diet, smoking, alcohol, or drugs. This sort of death falls short of cancer, diabetes, and heart disease. It is not accident. Accidents require fewer bullets. Accidents are not just that call that startles you out of sleep. Accidents are never systematic, repetitive, and unloaded easily. Accidents do not extinguish parents in front of children, nor do they swing pendulum toward a skin that catches a glinting sun in a whole other character. No, this is the deliberate swing of phone books, pulled triggers, and drop hammers. This is the dragging of bodies into warehouses to say, look at how they kill each other. This is the shaking of heads that say, look at their report cards, sex lives, past records. This is the editors who will ask you, can they publish another poem about your dead because your nihilism is spiced just right with hot sauce from your bag and some peach cobbler from the black restaurants that don't survive in rejuvenated neighborhoods. This is the pain that no one wants to find in a hymnal because the chorus points at who is holding the gun instead of the dead on the floors in graves and left on the streets of America, a country known for its jagged hurts waiting in its buck knife. Don't expect less from a two-sided blade ever. This is a history wired, routed to eliminate, dim any charge that jumps clear off grid. Some seem to forget how I am a daily observer of electricity. I'm going to read this poem. It's for one of my, well, actually, it's for three of my former students. Two of them have gone on to graduate school at this point. One of them is living and working and being fabulous as well. He just decided not to go to graduate school. But when they were young, they were still teenagers, we got invited to be in this poetry competition in San Francisco. And it just so happened there was a museum that had Harvey Milk's suit on display that he was shot in. And two of the students that went with me, that, I named them in the book, they were queer. And I said, this is important history. You all need to see it. So we made a trip while we were traveling to the museum that had Harvey Milk's suit on display. And so the poem came out of that. It's called The Suits of Your Skins, for Sierra, David, and Perry. A simple gray suit behind the glass. I stood close enough, breathless. The shooter was almost this close. To Harvey Milk, a man he dropped. Bullet holes in the once white shirt surround faded sepia, stains that cling to frayed fabric. There is more than one hole. Black people know there is always more than one hole. There is more than one Black child standing beside me. I hold my breath for 3 inhales, 3 exhales, for each, because their heads come at the cheapest price. And the whispers will say they deserved restraints, the beatings were expected, they were due for death. And what to tell the Black girl when the magazines erase her 1 page at a time? She could disappear and no one will put her lost body in a headline, her limbs anathema to the news. And what to tell the 2 queer Black boys who could be my sons, who could be beaten into misshapen blood melons and left like loosely tied garbage bags? What to tell the children, the Black children, who would never be told to reach for anything? Not a cell phone, a wallet, a BB gun, a water pistol, a dashboard, a doorknob, rights. And what to tell the white classmates who do not understand experiments are carried out on the outcast first? Say stop because you do not want to say, I am next. And what to tell all the students when assault vehicles click out of stockpiles and occupy the streets with tear gas? Yes, I am looking at a jacket, pants, and shirt wrinkled after a long day at work, then death. This suit of a dead white gay man on a stamp and immortalized in film. The 3 huddled around me mean more than a suit for a man that people still pity. I look still as I tremble inside for the 3 students around me, each of them a brilliant burst just opening that could be extinguished, and only folks like me will canonize them. I echo my loves. I write you down, sketch your stamps, remember your jokes, insist the suits of your skins are not for idle display. I don't know why. It's funny. I don't cough most of the day, and then all of a sudden I'll just start coughing. So I'll read 2 more poems, and then I'll be happy to take questions and comments, and we'll see how that goes. Actually, yeah, I'll talk less, and I'll read 3 poems. So we'll go from there. Priest the Pitbull. Priest the Pitbull greeted me the first day he moved into my building, his tan fur shining as he wiggled. At least 3/4 of his body wagged when I patted his head and stroked his sinewed back. His mouth open and panting made up at least half of his face, full of teeth, but gently smiling. I called his name, shouted to him and the other neighbors when I heard his ticking claws on hallway tiles. I'd laugh about Ron O'Neal playing his namesake in Superfly. He'd quietly trot over and let me pet him. He never needed a leash. Nothing felt like fear gnashing its teeth into the back of my hand. I make it a habit to return kindness to other living beings, even when the world marks them as dangerous. Um, this is a poem I didn't expect people to be as excited about. It means a lot to me, but it's starting to pop up in a lot of other places, and I did a video of it um, for the Envisioning Justice Project. It's on envisioningjustice.org, but it's called Small Illuminations. 1. Albert is a gentle tower, his arms arched over tabletop like bridge beams or steel girders. Even if he does not understand everything he reads, he smiles like a good kid, like the kid he probably was 30 some years ago when he was in the wrong car with the wrong people at the wrong time that he will never get back. 2. The attention to detail borders on flawless, unscuffed white sneakers, perfected lined fades tucked under precisely folded scullies, immaculate with what you got as a clean, hard fought pride. 3. One week, I bring crisp folders, a bundle of sharpened pencils with full pink erasers, round and soft as a doll's blush. They rub away small errors, clearing smudges from a page like an actual correction. 4. I look for Albert's easy grin first when I walk into the concrete block classroom, locked in the education building, relieved relieved that the broken window denies the cold like a plea. One brother in blues with thermal sleeves peeking out of the dull, faded ocean of cloth arching over his torso. A cellmate hands me the slightly worn, safeguarded, staple bound book of poems, the signature, resolute, and matching letters of a poet's name who strolled into prison like a mother without fear of any child. Margaret Burroughs, more than a decade since she left the cell of her body. I clutch her poems, knowing how they pass from her hands like a prayer. We both smile, small illuminations in a dark hell, when the cellmate says, Albert wanted you to have this. He got transferred. He knew you would keep it safe. So I was thinking about this last poem yesterday because I had a conversation with Destiny Birdsong, who's another wonderful writer. And I mentioned this poem, but we didn't get a chance to read it. We talked about a whole bunch of other stuff. So I'm open to talking to other craft related questions too. But this one in particular, I wrote this poem about the movie Tangerine, which, if you haven't seen it, it's a great movie. It initially got a lot of attention because the entire movie was shot on an iPhone, but it's the story of uh, two trans women in Los Angeles who have two black trans women who happen to be sex workers in Los Angeles, and like what happens in the course of one night. It's a really great movie. Um, but this is my poem that kind of talks about a part of the movie. Tangerine. 1. Patterned stockings under folded down cutoffs curved into Cindy's crisscross lean in rapid buckled steps of bent knees. Midriff leopard tied above waist, flips brassy blonde of her wig. Alexandra holds no cigarettes, but clear high notes, streak of a tear, a pouch of skin that she refused. 2. Alexandra smooths hair under jaw, coupled with eyebrow arches, slick as brown leather jacket, a camel-colored purse strap on her shoulder, Sleek, Alexandra avoids fights, finds release from trade in a car wash. Foam, plumes curl on the windshield. 3. Urine flies in Cindy's face on Hollywood Christmas Eve as she solicits the next, and silence becomes a tight jacket over her shoulders. Alexandra still comes back, pulls Sin-dee into a 24-hour laundromat, yanks the piss slick clothes away to wipe Sin-dee clean. Another pass at innocence, known by night women, denied permits for shame and dignity. Alexandra unpins her halo of polished black from a rounded stockings cap, fits the wig on Cindy's naked nylon netted head. Neither one of them speaks. No one says prostitutes and men who know strolls. They just do exactly what sisters do. So I'll leave us with that. And I might read another one, but I really want to hear what you guys think. Thank you for all the kind comments in the chat. I see there's one question to start with. And if there's more, or you just want, to ask me a writing question, that's cool too. Um, Heidi says, "Hi, Heidi. I know you started in slams and your work has such beautiful sound effects. Do you now compose your poems aloud, on paper, or both?" I've always written them on paper first. I do read them out loud and sometimes, when I've done readings, I'll edit based on how it reads in a public reading because sometimes verbally, when you hear it, you catch the things that don't sound right. Today hasn't been my best reading because, as you can hear, my cough is acting up. I probably have not taken my Claritin today, but I'm not dying. But I do read for certain elements. Sometimes I want to avoid alliteration and rhyme if it gets too sing-songy. Sometimes I think about, is it just the word that conveys the tone or the sound that I want it to? So I do read it out loud sometimes just to get a good sense of how to edit it. And I'm looking, it looks like there's at least 1, 2, 3 people I know tonight. But even if you don't know me, I would love to hear from you. Anybody else? No, everybody's gonna be quiet. I wish I could have had a conversation with Diamond Sharp to share with you guys. She's also another young poet that I knew when she was in high school, and she's coming out with her new book, Super Sad Black Girl, on Haymarket Books this fall. So she couldn't make it, but I'm open to other questions. I know the link for the book is in the chat if anybody is wondering. Yep. And they just popped it back up there for you if you missed it. And they said, there it is again. Any other questions? No? Comments? Okay, there's a second question. What would you have liked to talk about with Diamond in particular? That is a good question. Well, for this book particularly, I wanted to be interviewed by younger poets because I kind of felt like the standard MO for a lot of book readings now is like people get the huge big bestseller friend that they have, or the friend who they think is going to be the big draw along with them. And I was really interested in talking about that. Like, how does it feel to have your first book out? And, you know, what have you learned by working on this first book? And this is kind of what I learned working on my first book. So I was kind of interested in talking about that. I was interested in what she might have thought about particular poems. You never know when you do these kinds of conversations what people glean from it as a reader. So I'm interested in that. And particularly, like, since Diamond went to Wellesley, I was curious what she might think about some of the poems that are centered on Black women. Since the first section is particularly about Black women, it's called Say Her Name in the book. So there's that. Are there any other questions? No? Okay. I don't know how to mark it answered. It has this little thing. Hmm. But anybody else? No? Yeah. I almost wish it was a little bit of a Zoom because now it's so quiet. We'll see. One more poem? Yes, we can do that. Also, I will say, um, Maria, I see you. I wish you were here in Chicago. Um, Judy, great to see you too. One of my students from the Stone Coast MFA program. And my friend Heidi, who's written about perfume and does all this great nonfiction work. So I'm glad to see you guys. Um, I'll do another poem and we can close out then, unless you guys are going to jump in. Jump in with a question and we'll do it from there. But uh, I'm just trying to figure out what I want to read. Well, I'll close with something from the first section. I think I've read a couple from every section, but I'll do that. Um, it's a poem about the one character from Star Trek that almost fell on me before the interview. If you'll notice, I have some Funko Pops up here. So I actually have a Funko Pop of Lieutenant Uhura from Star Trek. And the other ones that I have, the little collector figurines, are Storm from X-Men. I'm particularly intrigued with Storm from X-Men. Um, and I've written a couple poems about her. They're not in this book, but it's kind of one of the things that I'm intrigued by. I think we need to have our little fascinations, and I'll probably figure it out if I write more poems. But this poem kind of started that intrigue a little bit, and it's called Litany for Lieutenant Nyota Uhura. Mhm. Jet black curl whipped past her ear, lined to the rounded angle of cheek, matched to meticulous batwing eyeliner. The red lines sleek against thigh, then calves interrupted by black boots. But first, benediction. In praise of communicator chips, in praise of the flashing monitors, in praise of swirling chair that gave of her sharp lashes and poised vista of face, enough, yet not enough. Martin Luther King, another captain of sorts, offered his gospel. Another captain. He said, to be seen, she was to be seen, rocketing toward future. She is the vessel that carries and delivers. When she is navigator, guide, and seer, she is the vessel that carries and delivers. How often she is captain without title, blamed as commander without privilege. Question: did the Vulcan ever ask her about what it feels like to be different? He removed his pointy ears and brows daily, ruffled his hair to normalcy, released his anesthetizing grip. She takes off the wig, but she still wears herself, irreversible skin. She becomes the vessel that carries and delivers. She serves as navigator, guide, and seer. She is the vessel that carries and delivers. How often she is captain without title, commander without privilege. The conversation that never happened. I waited for you and Sulu to cast glances like unwritten spells, give each other silent nods, forge some way to defect if aliens became allies. If the captain barked too many times and forgot you were not just polished umber to fantasize about in a later episode. When you recall your surname means freedom, and Sulu Sea touches Asia. When slavery and internment camps failed to turn your ancestors to dust, you, fourth in command, a helmsman, never called lieutenant, could direct a story and steer the Starship Enterprise. So, thank you guys. This is the book. I'm so excited. It's in independent bookstores like Women and Children First. And I'm really glad to join you guys. And Ida, thank you so much for weathering the storm to get us here online.
Hey, you got yourself here, and I'm just here for it too. I'm so happy we were able to make this work, and I look forward to seeing you in the future in person. And thank you for reading tonight, and thank you for everybody who tuned in, especially if you were tuning in from far away. And please come see us, or be it virtually or not. But yeah,
Yes.
thank you so much. And buy the book. That link's in the chat.
And Women and Children First is on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. So you can find them everywhere. They're not hard to find.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, we're there. All right. Well, thank you. Congratulations again.
Thank you guys. Everybody be safe and have a good night.